Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Trade and Finance Departmental Series. Today we are hosting Dr. Kazi Sohag, which is a very prominent researcher, and he's also a very dear friend. So welcome to accept our invitation to our departmental series. Before letting the stage to you, Dr. Melis Gültekin will read a short biography of Dr. Kazi Sohag. So I'm also welcoming everyone who is also a listener in the session. So please, Melis.
Hi, dear all participants. Kazi Sohag is an associate professor and head of the PhD program at the Graduate School of Economics Management, Ural Federal University, Russian Federation. And he is also head of the Laboratory for International and Regional Economics. He is an adjunct research fellow at School of Commerce, University of Southern Queensland, Australia. Besides, Dr. Kazi is an associated research fellow at Accounting Research Institute in Malaysia. He is an external researcher at Center of Research Excellence in Renewable Energy and Power Systems, King Abdulaziz University, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Dr. Kazi is a contributing author of IPCC Working Group 3 under UNFCCC. He obtained a PhD in Environmental Economics from the National University of Malaysia in 2017. Kazi Sohag received a diploma in Global VAR Modeling using the GVAR from Czech University of Life Sciences, Czech Republic, 2019, and Energy and Environmental CGA Modeling with GAMS from ECOMOD, Singapore in 2015. According to REPEC, Kazi Sohag is the top 5th and top 99 economics in Russia and the world, respectively, based on the last 10 years publications. And he is a regular reviewer of more than 50 high impact journals. His high index is 19, where the total citation is over 3,000. Dr. Kazi was awarded several international research grants from different countries, including Russia, Iran, Malaysia, Kosovo, UAE, Indonesia, and KSA. Now I give the floor to Kazi Sohag.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share the screen. But it shows that host disabled participant screen sharing, so I need permission.
Okay.
All right. I think you can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see.
Oh, good. Okay, so today I will be talking about counterfactual analysis in economics, and once again, thank you very much for inviting me in your university. I hope I can join in person in future. But anyway.
You are more than welcome.
All right. Okay. So counterfactual analysis is indeed a very important aspect or analysis in economics. So today I will be talking about this is the agenda. So an overview of counterfactual analysis, then difference regression, propensity score matching approach, generalized synthetic control. Then I will try to demonstrate some application from my ongoing study and question answer session. Okay, so the very first thing is that what is counterfactual analysis? So counterfactual analysis basically that give a attribute, cause and effect, intervention and outcome. So probably you know that most of the government take a different macroeconomic policy or economic policy. For instance, there can be a policy like minimum wage law, or a trade embargo, or let's say free trade, sometimes expansionary fiscal policy, sometimes monetary policy, contractionary or fiscal monetary policy, or sometimes government can provide some subsidy to improve the situation. It's not necessarily the government. Sometimes NGO or the private sector can take some project or program to improve certain condition or socio-economic indicators. For instance, in many developing countries, NGOs are working, for instance, poverty alleviation projects. In many developing countries, including Bangladesh, then Indonesia, and many African countries. I do not know whether is there any microcredit program in Turkey or not. So now the question is, after certain period of time of intervention of any project, whether the project is successful or not, whether the socio-economic indicators improved or not. So there is a question. So economists try to evaluate any policies, sometimes applying counterfactual analysis. So it's like a compensating variation or equivalent variation, probably you know from the economic theory. It also can be applied in pure medical science. Let's say when the COVID strikes, pandemic, so many vaccine company, they produce vaccine. Now, whether the vaccine is effective or not, we need a causal effect, meaning whether those who are vaccinated, their probability or intensity of COVID after affected is reduced in comparison with the people, those who didn't take vaccine. So that's why we need to know, because it is not just easy to see before and after. Let's say before, if you want to talk about a poverty, and if there is a program like microcredit program, so before implementing the project, maybe they have per capita income a certain level, let's say $10 per day per person. So after 1 year of implementing of the project, microcredit project, probably their income increase from $10 to $15 per day. So now, whether this project or program can argue or can claim this improvement, it happened because of the project or not. So answer is no. They cannot fully claim it because there are many exogenous factors can influence. Let's say there are many government projects. Over the time, everybody is improving. So socio-economic indicators are improving. Likewise, let's say if some people are vaccinated and after COVID infected, their intensity maybe is low, the severity is low. So whether the people can claim, vaccine company can claim that this outcome is because of the vaccine? No, because maybe their immune system is already strong. So that's why we need to compare with other groups. Those groups didn't take this intervention or vaccine. So the counterfactual analysis measures that what would happen to the beneficiaries in the absence of the intervention. So that's why we need two groups. So we call it control groups. The control groups, those who are out of the policy reform or treatment. Like if I talk about a vaccine, so those people didn't receive any vaccination. And the treatment group, those who are enrolled in the program or policy reform or treatment. So after certain period of time, we need to see what happened in the both groups. So in order to assess the impact, so one is the conventional approach is sometimes people see simple T statistics. Let's say if you talk about the income before project and after project, so whether income there is a significant change or not. So as I given an example from $10 to $15. So now if you can see the mean difference by T statistics, obviously from if you see from 10 to 15, it increased by $5. But simply we cannot argue this is the outcome of the project by simple T statistics. That's why the very beginning, the econometrician developed double difference regression. It's called DID approach. So DID approach is like that. Okay, so after the program starts, let's say if it is a poverty alleviation project, before starting the project, I need the baseline survey to see what is the per capita income of the beneficiaries. And I have to find out a control group that having a similar socio-economic background and their income is more or less the same with the treatment group. So after implementing of the project, if the control groups income also increase from $10 to $12, but in treatment group, their income increase from $10 to $15. Then I need a double difference, meaning first difference is going to be $5, and from second difference from control group, I have to deduct $2 more because in control group income increased by $2. So this $3, the project can argue that this is the actual outcome of the project. So this is a double difference regression. And also there is a triple difference regression. I can present this phenomena by giving a picture. So there are some assumptions. Assumption is that when I select treatment and control, so before intervention, there should be a parallel trend for something. Let's say my indicator is income, per capita income. There should be a parallel trend. Let's say this is the parallel trend. Okay, so this one, this dotted one, and this one is the same, is a parallel trend. Then after the treatment, what happened? So for example, after intervention, the treatment control group, their income probably is increasing like this trend. So this is the treatment group, and their income also increasing, this dotted, if there is no project. It will be same like control group, but because of the intervention, this trend become more steeper. So this difference, we can argue it is because of the treatment. But in this method had some limitations. Limitations is that, let's say we do not have any data before implementing in the project. After implementing of the project, we have the data. So no data before, so there is no baseline. So we cannot conduct double difference regression. Then another one is that it has to be purely random variables, randomly selected. So that also one of the limitations. Another important limitation is that the pre-parallel test, meaning this similar trend, may not hold in some cases. So these are the limitations. And another limitations is that, let's say we have a different group and their intervention time can differ. Let's say in some country, in one group, it starts from, let's say 2015. Another group, it starts from 2016. So if that starting time of the intervention vary from one group to another group, then we cannot simply establish this pre-parallel test. So that is one of the limitations. So in order to avoid these limitations, there is another approach is called propensity score matching. This one is a purely non-parametric test when your sample is not randomized. So, and we do not have any data before project. Okay, so only have a project. Let's say you are implementing a project, and certain point of time you realize that there should be some evaluation to see whether there is a real impact from the project or not. If it is so, then what we can do? So still there is a method, it's called quasi-experimental method, but non-randomized, propensity score matching. So propensity score matching also can give you some approximation whether the project is effective or not. So how propensity score matching works? Let's say there is some project to improve their income, like a microcredit, and we have 8 persons here from 1 to 8. So now D indicates that whether they are under the project or the control group or treatment group. So first 4 persons is from the control group, meaning they didn't receive any benefit from the project, and these 4 people, they receive some sort of benefit from the projects. So now if you can see their income of this 4 person, 60, 80, 90, then 200. Then if we just see a difference from this group and that group, whether income increase or not. So that's some like a school boy analysis, a simple analysis. So that's why we have to go for a little bit critical in terms of evaluating of this project, meaning there should be some covariant, and based on this covariant matching, we can see the difference. For instance, a person, number four person, his education, if you look at here, 12 years of education. So 12 years of education and his income is 200. So whether the person 4 and person 5 is a 5 years of education, whether I can compare between these 2 persons or not? No, because his year of education is higher. So he has a higher chance to earn more because of the education. So I have to compare with the person who has a similar education. Let's say number 8, this person has a 2 years of education, and number 1, he has also 2 years education. So if I want to compare the outcome of the project, I can compare with this person 8 and 1, because both of them have a year of education 2 years. But obviously I cannot compare with this person 8 and 4 because his year of education 12. So after matching in certain indicators covariant, still if the income is higher for this group, then we can say it is the actual outcome of the project. So how propensity score matching will work? Propensity matching will try to match from this group and this group based on certain indicator, like I have taken education here. So the first comparison will be with person 1 and person 8 because both of their education 2. Now we can see the difference of their income is 60 and 70. So it is $10 more. Then person 2 can be compared with person 6 because both of their education is 3. And 5 with this 5. And since 12 doesn't have any 12 years of education is there is no matching group. That's why it can remain unmatched, or it can be matched with taking some kind of a aggregation of education. Okay, so I can see how it will be done. So for example, here in this group, number 5 is matched with number 3 based on education, and their income difference is 10. And for number 6, their education is same, so the difference is 0. Then number 7, their difference is 5. Number 8, difference is 10. Then I have to sum it up, all these 4 divided by 4, and this is the average higher income in this treatment group. So 6.25, after matching it, we can say this is the actual outcome of the project because of this intervention. So we can say this is a causal effect. It happened because of the intervention. So propensity score matching approach is when the data is not randomized and when you have no pre-parallel test or no baseline. So this method is still valid if you want to see the impact of any intervention by applying counterfactual analysis. Now there is a new methods. It developed in 2017. It's called generalized synthetic approach. This generalized synthetic approach is overcome some limitations of the mainly DID approach, double difference. One of the severe limitations of the DID, let's say intervention time can differ. I will give you an example. For instance, we were interested to see that in a different country, there is a different program to reduce corruption or improve quality of governance. One of the intervention is to establish autonomous anti-corruption commissions. So many countries, there are autonomous anti-corruption commissions or entity. But the starting time of this entity, of this organization, can vary from country to country. Now, if I want to see that whether anti-corruption commissions has any significant effect to reduce corruption or not, because many countries also there is no anti-corruption commission. So I can find out treatment and control group. So the control group will be those countries having no anti-corruption commission. In another hand, treatment group will have the country having anti-corruption commission. Since their starting time or establishment time can differ, so simply I cannot apply DID because the time will vary from country to country. So in order to overcome this strong assumption of pre-parallel test, there is a method is called generalized synthetic approach. So that will try to find out a time interactive, meaning it will create a common time and before and after, then see the intervention has any causal effect or not. So that is the main essence of generalized synthetic control. We also apply this test in another a paper in some carbon tax. In some country there is a carbon tax, where the carbon tax has some causal effect in reducing carbon or not, with the comparison with the country having no carbon tax. So the starting time of carbon tax can differ from one country to another country. So that's why we cannot apply propensity score matching approach or DID approach, but we have to apply generalized synthetic approach. So now I can show you some application. Mainly I will show you an application with generalized synthetic control. As I said that we applied this method for evaluating the treatment effect of anti-corruption commission globally, since many countries they have anti-corruption commission and their job is to curb or reduce corruption activities in the government or even in the private sector. So since there was no study that motivated us to conduct this study, so we have taken many countries, mostly developing countries. We remove the developed countries since their quality of governance already better. So in this developing country, these are the 46 countries they have anti-corruption commission, and some point of time they establish it. The establishment period is not same from one country to another country. And these are the country control group. They don't have any anti-corruption commission. So we wanted to see whether this country experienced some kind of improvement in reduction of corruption activities or not. So we have taken outcome variable is a 6 indicators of quality of governance from World Bank, as you know. So these 6 indicators are control of corruption, political stability, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, rule of law, voice and accountability. And our treatment variable is the establishment of anti-corruption entity. And interestingly, generalized synthetic control also allow you to incorporate some covariate, meaning some kind of a control variable. Because in some anti-corruption commission, they adopted UN convention and some are not. So it may make a difference, right? Then some anti-corruption commission, they have a power to prevent corruption, and they have a power of investigation or prosecution. So we have taken these 4 important covariate in our analysis. So now you can see, I think most of you know the definition of this variable, so I'm not going to define the variable. So I already talked about this data for 46 country and control group and data from 1996 to 2019. And we have taken this data anti-corruption entities and the quality of governance, some data from Gutenberg University. So I already talked about the generalized synthetic control. What are the main advantage? The main advantage is that it doesn't require pre-parallel test, like the ID approach. So now I will show you the result. For example, ATT means average treatment effect of anti-corruption commission on the control of corruption, whether the control of corruption improve or not in this country or not. Since if you look at here, time relative to treatment, there is no specific time here. Since their establishment of anti-corruption varies from one country to another country, that's why this method created somewhat a zero time. It's called time relative to the treatment. Then this part, left part is before intervention, and this is after intervention. But you can see this is the causal effect, this thick black line. So control of corruption, it shows it reduced somewhat. But we cannot say this is significant because of the confidence interval. This shadow, it didn't pass, I mean, it's going through this zero line. This is the zero line. So that's why we call it insignificant. So control of corruption, I mean, anti-corruption commission doesn't have any significant effect on control of corruption, though there are some the trend downward trending, but it is insignificant. Then there are some other tests to see the equivalent test. Also, it is equivalence test is that kind of a periparallel test before intervention. So this assumption it fulfills by this test, but after treatment, we cannot say is there any significant effect. But this is something very interesting to see. The average treatment effect of anti-corruption commission on government effectiveness, we see it's a negative. So meaning those countries having anti-corruption commission in developing country, the government effectiveness even reduced. It may happen if anti-corruption is independent, maybe they can hamper some government project because of bureaucracy quality or something like that, because of the commission. But we were expecting a positive effect, rather it is negative significant effect after intervention. And government stability also gone down, but slightly here is significant, most of the time is insignificant. Then regulatory quality also somewhat significant negative. but we saw that in the treatment effect of Anti-Corruption Commission on rule of law is positive significant. So those countries having Anti-Corruption Commission, their rule of law experienced is some sort of a positive shock comparing the country having no Anti-Corruption Commission. So it is expected. And voice and accountability also slightly improved, but still insignificant. Then we were interested to see that some Anti-Corruption Commission, those who accepted UN Convention of eradication of corruption, whether this country having some positive significant effect or not. So we found the treatment effect is quite promising in those countries. The Anti-Corruption Commission adopted UN Convention. At least if you compare before, that was negative trend, but here is a positive trend. In some places there is a significant. So in general, the findings is that Anti-Corruption Commission doesn't have any significant treatment effect on these outcome variables. So if you have any questions about counterfactual analysis, I'm open for you.
Are there any questions from the audience? No. I have my questions on my own. So I was going to ask, are the assumptions of propensity score matching are more relaxed than counterfactual analysis? So you have talked about it, but just to sum up.
Yeah. All right. Propensity score matching is when your sample is not randomized. You have a particular group of people and you don't have any pre-parallel data, meaning before intervention, no data. Understand? For instance, some people have a problem with obsessive compulsive disorder, some psychological problem. Now, as a treatment, there is some therapy. So after the therapy, if you wanted to see whether their problem is reduced or not, okay? But you do not have any data before. So, but you have a data for those who didn't receive any therapy. So now, if you want to compare, or if you want to see the impact of this therapy, so you cannot see only the mean difference between these two groups, because you have to consider whether the patient's gender. So you have to compare with male. If age with age, let's say someone is older, so he has maybe higher chance than the younger. That's why you have to select some indicator after matching everything. After matching everything, if the outcome variable, if you see some improvement, those who receive treatment, you can argue that, okay, it is because of the treatment. Understand? Let's say I have given an example, like you want to see the impact of microcredit, whether it improves the income of some people, those who receive microcredit or not. So now you do not have any baseline survey, meaning before implementing project. Only have the data after implementing project, because if you are invited from the government to evaluate this project, whether it has a significant effect or not. So what you can do, you will survey those people receiving the microcredit, and another group, those who didn't receive it, but similar socioeconomic background. Now, if you want to compare with one person and another person, it should not be a general comparison. You have to fix some covariant. Let's say covariant can be education, year of education, then their age, family members, whether he has a social capital or not. So after matching everything from these two groups, only then you can compare. So that's the propensity score matching.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And about the paper, that was actually a very interesting one. So it seems that anti-corruption teams are not working very properly, what might be the underlying reasons? Just how did you conclude your paper? Could you just sum up a little bit?
For example, I see many developing countries, they have anti-corruption. But anti-corruption, those who are appointed in anti-corruption, they are politically motivated. So they are appointed by the politician, ruling party. So what they are going to say? Nothing. So they cannot work really freely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
That's the
Okay, thank you
conclusion.
so much. Actually, this has been a very fruitful session for me. You just summed up the econometric approach first, and then you introduced your paper. So I think Çiçek has one question, I think. She raises a hand. So Melis, can we enable Çiçek to ask a question or maybe a message, maybe? Melis?
I think there is a question.
Okay, I'm trying to give the permission to her.
Okay. The institute is enabling that everybody shuts down. So nobody can ask questions very easily. Just to motivate our speakers more.
Teacher, can you write it? Because I just give you the permission to write your question, not for talking. I can't give any talking permission.
Okay, she can write, no problem.
Or you can, if it is possible, allow them to ask the question live rather than typing. Okay. Okay, so he's going to write. He or she, I don't know.
She, a very strong she.
All right. Okay,
My question is regarding the corporate side. Can you see it, Kazi? Or should I read it? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Is it possible to implement GSC approach to companies who have ESG rating and does not have ESG rating to show if ESG rating process has positive effect on the company's stock prices? So a good one, actually.
Okay, why not? So, but in that case, you need the data before implementing ESG company, and if your outcome variable is a stock price, so you have to have data before adapting ESG and after. So you should have a control group and treatment group. But you have to be a little bit, I think, careful about selecting the company. So let's say in some company, they have a very big market capitalization and some can have a small market capitalization. So when you select your sample, at least try to make some homogeneity in terms of market capitalization. But it is, yes, possible. But since it is the high frequency data, almost daily data, there is stock price. But normally econometricians prefer time series approach rather than this kind of a counterfactual analysis. But if you want to apply, you can proceed. Maybe it can have some new dimension.
We will ask further questions if in the future maybe about this to you, Dr. Kazi.
Right.
Okay, any other questions from our audience? So I think no. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Sohag. So we are very happy to see you online. So hopefully maybe in the future we can see you face to face.
Yeah,
thank you so much, and thank you, dear audience, for attending this seminar too. So I'm closing the session for now. Thank you. See you again.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye, you too. Thank you so much. Back again.